Hello, I want to tell you a real story about my dad. My dad is the guy you can see in the picture here. This is him as part of a very famous squadron called 617 Squadron, known as the Dambusters. He was 22 years old when you see him there. He's standing next to the pilot, a Canadian pilot called Bill Adams. Bill Adams was a real extroverted, outgoing, almost a maverick, somebody who wasn't afraid and was determined. The type of guy who would fly the Lancaster bomber under bridges. He was daring, as was my dad. Each of these men that you see in the picture were part of the crew. My dad was a wireless operator. He used to shoot out Morse code and receive Morse code, which he could decipher all about the missions he used to go on. The thing is about my dad, he was at the age of 14, he did not have the ability to stay at school and carry on with his education. It was a time where, unless you were able to, you would have to spend quite a lot of money to stay at school. But he went out and he started working at an early age. But he was, in fact, a very intelligent man. And then, of course, as he progressed in his electrical and engineering ways, he managed eventually to enter the Royal Air Force. And in fact, he went into the Royal Air Force in 1943, aged 21. The thing is about the war, it came so quickly. It came unexpectedly, and young people joined the military to help the United Kingdom. Now, my father was in a Lancaster bomber as a wireless operator, and to actually survive any of the missions they went on was really something. In fact, you were cited as a veteran if you achieved 10 missions. After that, you were told you were living on time. And many of the guys in the different squadrons never came back when they went on a mission, because the Lancaster was a very powerful plane, but it was also quite a target to hit. And my dad went through the whole war. He got through the war. He was involved in 36 operations. After the war, the country started to rebuild itself. And my dad initially went into a role with aviation, but missed the Royal Air Force. But to progress in the Royal Air Force, he had never done his O-level English. So at the age of 36, he decided to study for his English O-level, which is the equivalent of GCSE today. And he managed to get his O-level, and it offered him the opportunity to progress through his life to better positions. And he became an air traffic controller for the rest of his life. So my feeling is, from this, there is a story to it that, you know, learning absolutely never stops. Because we reach a certain age, it doesn't mean we can't learn. And there, as I've said in other videos, that there are a lot of people in the UK at the moment who do not have their GCSE English. And rightly or wrongly, it makes a difference in the opportunities that you can get in your career and in your jobs. And if you are one of those who possibly didn't understand when you were at school, maybe too involved in other things when you were at school, and are now at an age where you've learned a little bit about life and you feel that you can do more than you did. You know, every one of us as adults regret some things about our school days that we should have done better. I was pretty casual at school. In fact, in my very last report, when I was in sixth form, the head of year said that I was remarkably casual. And I always was. But I had other things going on. I enjoyed other things. I did sport. So I had lots of different elements in my life. But I am now very involved in education, have been for over 45 years. And I'm the person who now feels I can help other adults. I spend a lot of time with GCSE English students, year 9 right up to year 11. Of course, the year 11s are doing their exams. And at the end of this week, on the 6th of June, all those year 11s I will have finished with. And I've been doing this for some time. So I want to offer the opportunity for adults who really do want to get their GCSE. Now, I would recommend AQA as the board, as I've been involved in that for some time. There are other boards, but AQA tends to be a good one to learn and build on. And it's well sought after. And there's no reason why you can't do it. The tuition I would offer would be whatever people want. You know, it could be one-to-one, it could be a pair, it could be a small group. It doesn't really matter. You know, it's something that you could commit to and invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. You know, some things in life are worth investing in. And life, you know, these days we live a lot longer. We're going to work a lot longer. So there's still lots of opportunities. You know, people in their 50s who retire, it's unusual. You know, 60s, 70s people work too. But also it's not just about work. It's about purpose. It's about what you want to offer, what you want to do. Sometimes it's about what you want. You know, as parents, sometimes you spend time when their children are grown up and are focusing on them. But, you know, you can focus on yourself sometimes and look at something you can do that you might have had an ambition when you were young that you never fulfilled. It's still there. So I am trying to build up interest in those people, those adults over 19 and onwards that really want to have a go at getting their English language through AQA. A lot of the paperwork that comes with registering the actual exam is not that complicated. The Joint Committee for Qualifications can recommend AQA exam centres near where you live, and you can register for that for the exams like everybody else. Obviously, when you're an adult, there may be some schemes that you can apply for through your local councils, where you may get help with tuition, etc. But if that's not possible, then I can help. So my feeling is this is about registering your interest and getting in touch with me. It's not going to cost you anything to get in touch and register your interest. And then I will send you information of how we can progress and what the opportunities are. But I need people to get in touch because this is something I've been wanting to do for some time. I've worked with thousands of students over the years, not only in the UK, but overseas. I've worked in multicultural societies. So I'm used to working with people from cultures all over the world. I worked in the Middle East for over 16 years and 18 years. And I worked in Singapore, in the Far East. I almost ended up teaching in Hong Kong. I have Hong Kong students now. But I do a lot for students, but I think adults also need an opportunity. We tend to neglect our own lives. We think we're past the sail by date. It's not true. I mean, I've learned, and I'm sure a lot of you have learned, that learning never does stop. You know, there's new innovations every day. The generation of today are getting to grips with artificial intelligence, getting into grips with technology, and all the things they get involved in are shifting the focus of our lives. And, you know, the more we keep up with things, the more satisfied we can become, because, you know, I have a lot of sort of parents who say, well, I don't know how to do that. And I've never done that. You know, that's not how we used to do it. But you know what? You can't live in the past. And when I was showing you a photo of my father was incredibly brave. Incredibly brave. We often look back to COVID and saying how bad it was. And yes, sure, COVID was bad. But boy, it wasn't as bad as the Second World War. My mother was an evacuee. And my father was flying in Lancaster bombers, taking his life in his hands. But he always valued people. He always valued others. When I used to talk to him about his missions, he was very humble. He never saw himself as a hero. He knew what he was doing was actually probably quite devastating. He used to tell me that when he was in the Lancaster at night and they were being fired at, it was like a firework display around the Lancaster, but just one of those beautiful fireworks was deadly. He did have a situation where his Lancaster was hit at the back and they got ready to get the parachutes on and parachute out. But the maverick Bill Adams, the Canadian pilot, decided that he was going to get everybody back down on the ground. And he did. But it was a shaky moment. It was a moment of fragility. And it was a moment of when mortality becomes really important. A lot of the students I have need to have somebody that can focus on history and show the worth of history. We don't live in the past. That you can't live in the past, but we do learn by it, and you can't change it. And the way things have moved forward now, even to me, I see some aspects of life and values that have disappeared. Respect has gone a little bit, and you know, people tend to get involved in things that are not so good just for the sake of getting lots of information out and to sort of advertise themselves in certain ways. But look, don't think that doing a GCSE at any age is something wrong. It's actually fantastic if you took it on. It shows your courage, it shows your ability, it shows that you want to do something worthwhile. And you know, who knows, it might just open those doors. And look, they say life begins at 40. I think it begins at 60. You know, we've got to stop putting these old sayings and thinking that's the way it is. We've still got a lot of fuel in our engines, you know, and the human capacity is enormous. We often use only 20% of our abilities. Well, you could add a few percent more if you do this with me. If you say, I'm going to do GCSE English, I will guide you through with lessons and take you through and then you go for your exam. Believe you me, when you pass, you will love it. Anyway, all the information about getting in touch with me is at the bottom of this video, and do get in touch. As I said, it costs nothing to get in touch, and you might just want to be involved in something new, something to look forward to, something that invests in yourself. Have a great day and get in touch. Thank you very much.